Greetings everyone, welcome back to Taoist Magic. First of all, Happy New Year. This is my first Taoist Magic video of 2020. I'm looking forward to seeing what the year will bring. I would just like to say very quickly, I've recently created a blog dedicated to all different practices of Taoist magic. It is still in the early stages yet, but there's already quite a lot of useful information on there on Chinese magic and mysticism. I've left a link in the description for you to check it out. Please do. I have plans in the future to create my own forum, which will be a place for practitioners to come together. More news on that later in the year. Today, I'd like to explore some of the mythology and mysticism about Taoist entities, especially ones that are highly benevolent and beneficial for the magician's ascent. If you recall, a while ago, I made a video on the famous 3 pure ones, what they represent, and how they can benefit the practitioner when contacted. Another group of venerated figures within Taoism are the 8 Immortals, known as the 8 Xian. I want to make separate individual videos for each immortal. They are an extremely diverse group, ranging from all ages, occupations, social classes, genders, and backgrounds. They also cover every facet of human life, male and female, old and young, rich and poor. All walks of life are represented. This is what makes the stories so inspiring to everyday people. Each of the immortals have characteristic powers that can be transferred to a corresponding magical talisman that can be used in a variety of rituals. These tools are known as the Convert 8 Immortals. Each immortal represents various supernatural and fantastical abilities, ranging from healing, exorcism of evil spirits, predicting future events, immortality, reviving the dead, and together they form a team of benevolent folk heroes who desire to help ordinary Chinese people, most of which were believed to have been born during the Tang or Shang dynasty. They are almost never seen individually and are usually treated as a collective. They are said to live on the 5 islands of the Beihai Sea in the legendary land of Peng Lai, a place where the immortals go to feast, a land where everything appears to be colored white, where giant gold palaces decorate the area and jewels grow on the trees. The legends say that special mushrooms grow here that contain the power of immortality, a place with no agony and no winter, that supposedly holds the fountain of the elixir of life. It is important to note that gods and immortals are not the same beings. In Chinese belief, gods rule the earth from heaven and prefer not to meddle with human affairs. Immortals are not born of divine parents. They can move freely and easily between the realms of earth and heaven, serving as spiritual role models for everyday people, aiding them if necessary. They were all once normal men and women who, through strict self-cultivation, inner alchemy, breathing techniques, sexual control, the practice of kindness and virtue, whose amazingly selfless acts have enabled them to reach the status of immortality, effectively becoming saints, to transform into a perfected being that knows the secrets of nature, and yet they still choose to help those who are less fortunate. Unlike the stereotypical gods, who tend to have very intimidating, forbidding personalities, these immortals are quite warm and humorous, almost playful in many ways. Whilst gods have to be petitioned in order for them to help us, immortals do not wait to be asked, and instead will help regardless of petition. This is why Chinese society loves them so much. They represent harmony and idealism. They are close to the hearts of average people, the saviors of the weak and the poor. Because there are 8 of them, even the number 8 itself has become auspicious in Taoism, representing wholeness, completeness, and of course, infinity. This is further supported by the 8 trigrams of the Bagua. The Eight Immortals are found all throughout art, paintings, vases, and Chinese robes. Even the practice of Qigong and some martial arts use the Immortals. In pop culture, there are many TV shows, comic books, and video games that feature the Immortals, so in many ways they have become like superhero characters. Despite being very benevolent, a lot of the Immortals are quite eccentric and mischievous. Due to this, they are sometimes viewed as being figures of anti-authority and a carefree, non-conformist lifestyle. We like that around here. The purpose of this video is to explain the mythology behind each immortal, but I also want to go beyond the myths and explain how each of these beings can become powerful allies for the ritual magician. How can they be useful, and why would a practitioner wish to call upon their assistance? Try to look past the humanoid figures. Don't cling too heavily to the depictions and treat them as different currents of energy. Each of them are avatars and allegories that hold secret knowledge. It's up to you to decipher this and apply it accordingly to your situation. Keep the following things in mind. Treat the Eight Immortals as energy currents. Anyone can make contact with these beings, and no immortal is greater than the other. The first immortal I want to discuss here is perhaps the most famous one that is known all throughout the world. He is considered by some to be the leader of the group, Dongbin, often referred to as the Sword Immortal or Master of Pure Yang. He was a Chinese scholar, poet, and master of Neidon, otherwise known as inner alchemy. He is considered one of the earliest masters of this tradition. History records his name in the book, The History of Song, and according to the Taoist book, History of the Immortals, Lu is considered to be the reincarnation of the ancient sage king Huang Tanshi. In some of the mythology, it is said that when he was born, the room filled with a mysterious fragrance, and a heavenly white crane came to sit by his mother's bed. The sound of flutes and pipes were heard playing, all auspicious signs of a good fortune. Obviously, as I'm sure some of you know, the white crane is a Chinese representation of immortality, so seeing the crane fly into the room was a sign of Lu's future as an immortal. Unlike the other immortals, Dongbin has quite a large amount of fame outside of the group, and some magicians will only work with him rather than the others. He is often portrayed as a clever, intelligent man with a strong and sincere desire to help other people learn the ways of the Tao. He is also known to carry a sword on his back that destroys and dispels evil spirits and also grants him the power of invisibility. As well as carrying a white horse whisk, he is also the patron of barbers. He was known to have been very intelligent since childhood and had many academic achievements. Before finding the Tao, his ambition was to become an official, but by the age of 20, he was still not married, which was quite uncommon for those times. He tried twice to become a government official, but he failed the exam on both occasions. Despite having a good nature to him, he was often known to be a bit of a womanizer, who was fond of getting drunk and prone to bouts of anger. His ladies' man reputation has given him an association with Taoist sexual arts. According to one legend, one day whilst in Chang'an, he met a Taoist named Zhongli Chuan, who was writing a poem on a wall. This man would later become his teacher. The legend says that one night he fell asleep whilst cooking yellow millet in a hotel. He dreamt that he had passed an imperial exam and was awarded the position of vice minister. He married a daughter from a wealthy family and had a son and a daughter. He was then promoted once again, this time to the great position of prime minister. However, his incredible success started to attract jealousy from others, and so he was accused of crimes that cost him his position. His wife then left him, and his son and daughter were both killed by bandits. He soon lost all of his wealth and remaining power. Still dreaming, just as he lay dying in the streets, having lost everything, he woke up. Although in the dream 18 years had passed, the whole dream took place whilst he was still cooking the yellow millet. It was all a trick. The characters in his dream were played by another immortal, Zhongli Chuan. The purpose of the dream was to make Lu understand that material gain, status, and financial power should not be the primary focus of people. After this experience, Lu went with Zhongli Chuan to discover the Tao. This experience became known as the Yellow Millet Dream. Zhongli saw great potential in the scholar, but he needed to test his resolve first. This legend became known as the 10 Trials of Lu Dongbin, in which he is subjected to various trials and tribulations, such as when Lu was studying in a hut on a mountain. A beautiful woman tried to seduce him into sleeping with her, but he was unfazed by her attempts. He had overcome his womanizing ways. Another test, Lu bought some bronze utensils at a market. When he got home, he found out all of them were made out of gold, so he went back and returned them to the seller. Another example of a test, Lu met with a beggar. After giving him some money, the beggar demanded more and became abusive, hurling insults and vulgar words at Lu. Lu simply left with a smile. Another test says a crazy Taoist was selling medicine on the streets. He told people that the potion would either kill them on the spot or make them immortal. Everyone was too scared to drink the medicine, but Lu drank it and nothing happened to him. I'm not going to go through every single trial and test here, but by now you are starting to see the thread of consistency with these stories. It's all about letting go of temptation, letting go of fear. It's really about being pure of heart, soul, mind, and body. Practicing true kindness and not expecting anything in return. In the end, after the trials, Zhongli Chuan discovers that Lu is indeed pure and is capable of becoming a proper disciple of the Tao. So he allows him to learn the secrets. Lu then changes the formula of this secret and begins a quest for inner peace. His main goal was to help other people with this knowledge, so he traveled the countryside and taught the Tao. Now, from a magician's perspective, how can we work with Lu Dongbin via ritual? Due to his connection with inner alchemy, he is viewed as the patron of Neidon. This means that any practice that involves alchemy, from creating spirit bodies to transforming internal chi, he, or should I say this expression of energy, is very useful. The Eight Immortals do not communicate via sigils or symbols, at least from my experience. I've tried symbolism and it never seems to work with me. They do, however, come through when you use a proper talisman that's associated with them. In this case, it is the sword. The sword represents Lu Dongbin in the same way that the feather fan represents Kongming. This is your key to unlocking that energy and communicating with it. Not just unlocking it, but flowing with that current of energy, what the Taoists call fusing or merging with the way, which means that you and the entity in question don't just communicate with each other, in many ways you become each other. If you imagine you are a wavelength of energy and radiance, and that entity is exactly the same, only a different expression of that radiance, when you speak to the entity, you and it, the two wavelengths, start to resonate at the same frequency, and they reach a point where they assimilate, becoming one wave of power. This means that you both have a mutual understanding of each other. This is when the magic takes place. Lu is also the patron of scholars, writers, and those who are highly literate. So if you are writing a book and you want a creative edge, his energies will expand your vocabulary. They will also increase your productivity. Remember, he's a poet, so if you are writing a poem, his essence will make the flow of that poem more harmonious. I use him for this all the time, actually. I write poems pretty much on a weekly basis, and I will usually invite Lu Dongbin forward to help me out. So for overall writing, he is very suitable. I would also go a step further with this and say that he is great with ritual incantations and chants. I make a lot of my own incantations and mantras for weather magic, and obviously before you say them, you should write them down, at least in my opinion. Even if they are nonsense words, writing them down brings them into the material plane. Most of my incantations are short, poetic words that rhyme, therefore they are easy to remember. Just before I create them, I will call upon Lu Dongbin for his assistance. He is also deeply connected to the medical profession, so a suitable entity to use for healing and longevity. When I fell ill about 2 years ago and had to be hospitalized, when I got discharged and went home, I did a working to contact Lu Dongbin to ask him for healing. Now, from my experience, immortals will always help those who need it. This isn't like a deity which requires the practitioner to prove or show his dedication. The immortals don't care about how advanced you are or if you're just starting out. If you need help, they will show up. So after about 20 minutes of still meditation, he shows up in the throne room. You know how I knew he was there? Because I could smell the fragrance. Remember the fragrance from the story. To me, and it's different for everyone, but to me it smelled like fresh, sweet mountain grass, like a beautiful summery smell, and it was very otherworldly. I'd never experienced anything like it, and it only happens when I contact him. Whenever I work with him, I know if he's there or not based on the scent. So the healing working I did with Lu was partially successful. He didn't cure me via magic. These spirits don't tend to work like that. But he did point me in the right direction of finding the proper medicine to treat my illness. So for that, I am very satisfied. I know some people are quite nervous about spirits and they will only communicate with the gentle entities. Well, Lu Dongbin is very gentle and very safe. If you are a novice, I'm sure you will feel very comfortable with him. One thing that needs to be said, most Taoists choose not to invoke him for relationship-based problems. Because of him being a womanizer in the mythology, the energy just isn't compatible with those trying to find the right lovers. So it's best to avoid him for this type of magic. So in conclusion, treat Lu Dongbin as an energy current, which is what all of the Eight Immortals are, at least in my opinion. Don't cling too much to the mythology. That's not to say that it isn't valuable, of course it is. I love getting lost in these magical stories, but you have to approach them with a grounded mindset. They are only useful if you use them as inspiration. Thank you for watching. Please do check out my blog on Taoist Magic. Take care, and I'll be back soon.